Oh, the Jubilee is coming. Oh, the Jubilee is coming.
Hi, welcome to the Aquarian Spirit. I'm Abbey, and I made myself Pope Abbey, but I don't believe in popes. But this is subtitled How to Survive the Apocalypse, which probably sounds a little over the top. There is a full-time army of propagandists and marketers who are working overtime to ensure that everybody believes that the institutions, the churches, everything is just fine. Nobody needs to worry. You know, don't leave the group. Everything's fine. No. I do not believe that everything's fine. I don't like the word believe so much. I know that everything is not fine. I consider my life to be of a rather faded persuasion. I have weathered a significant amount of adversity in the midst of a country like the United States, where there are many people that live in luxury, quite adjacent to myself. And so, well, I've been told directly by Spirit, and then also I've put together the pieces of my life to understand that it's my job to, or I have the opportunity of giving a warning to people of what is approaching and how to be prepared for that. And so this brings me to something about myself. I'm a transgender woman, and you know, we often say, well, I don't know what I am. I don't know what I am. I don't know how male and how female I am. I don't know if I'm actually a woman born into a man's body. I don't really know. What I do know is that for the first 30 years of my life, the spiritual, mystical, artistic side of myself had significant difficulty expressing itself. And I was extremely emotionally constipated, to put it rather crudely. I did not know how to express what was inside of myself without filtering it through 10 different filters to try and make it more appropriate and reasonable for the people outside of myself. And then 10 years ago, or maybe 12 years ago now, I pretty much said, fuck it on a cosmic level. And I decided that I needed whatever was inside of me needed to speak. And wherever I am now is the way of being that allows that part of myself to speak with honesty as much as I'm capable right now, and I feel like it's fairly honest. So if that's called being a transgender woman, so be it. If that's called being queer, so be it. If that's called being an artist, so be it. But I don't really care what I am. What I do care about is that I am free, and that I'm no longer filtering that part of myself, which society and my parents and the institutions and the media, when I was born, they gave me these filters to apply to myself to make sure that that part of myself could not speak as it honestly wished to speak. And so 11 years ago, I started to take hormones, and I changed the way I dressed, and I started wearing makeup. And I functionally have lived as a woman for 11 years. I have, I can move in female circles. I can go to women's meetings. I can go to women's restrooms or locker rooms, and I've even surgically altered my body to become more feminine. In many ways, I feel quite like a woman. I feel very feminine on the inside, but then again, I'm also quite masculine too. So I really don't know. I would rather call myself free of the chains of gender than to call myself a transgender woman. But here's the point and how it applies to the Aquarian spirit and how to survive the apocalypse. The amount of honesty, the amount of flexibility, the amount of mercurial, shamanic, and spiritual power that is required to go forward through the narrow window that is quickly approaching is quite high. You need a lot of those things. And I feel quite satisfied that I took the risk to totally change my gender expression as a means of becoming more open, more flexible, to be prepared to live in a world where I don't think I could have survived without so doing. And at the same time that I started that gender transition, I started writing a tremendous amount of music and poetry and writing. It all very much flowed out of me. So I know that whatever I did on a practical level enabled Pope Abbey to even exist. And so on some level, I really, really don't give a fuck about, like, am I a transgender woman? Am I a woman? Am I queer? Am I gay? Am I straight? All I am is free. And to be free in this supposedly free country is actually still quite painful, even though we all know how free the United States actually is. It's free, just don't go out those lines. Don't go outside of those lines and those lines and those lines and those lines and those lines, and stay within your gender role, stay within your racial role, stay within your socioeconomic role, stay within all of those things so you are predictable and controllable. And even if you decide to go out of those lines, well, we're just going to come up with some reason why you were sick and you just obviously just were fixing yourself. So they will often say, well, see, trans people, it's some sort of birth defect and they just they need to correct it so then they're normal again. And that's more bullshit. More bullshit. Like, I likely was born with a very strong feminine and a very strong masculine. And growing up in the masculine world, the feminine aspects of myself could not breathe. And there were core parts of the God experience that were in the feminine that I had to go on this journey to resurrect. And so, if you want to call that a gender transition, fine. If you want to call that some sort of non-binary exploration, fine. If you want to say that I'm queer as fuck, fine. Those are just labels. All I'm trying to do is return to wholeness And I strongly, strongly urge you to try to return to wholeness. The partial people will not make it going forward. Only the whole will survive. There is a new earth that is coming, and it is an earth for whole people. And if you need to take hormones to live as a woman, to resurrect some part of yourself that you cannot while living in male society, you must do it. You must have a militant, selfish attitude. You must say, I need to be whole. And they will come at you and they will say, oh, you're so sick. I'm so glad you're doing better. And they will dump pity on you. And you must continue in your journey to wholeness. You must be severe. You must be selfish when necessary, unselfish when necessary. There are numerous traps. Only the most strident will persevere to the promised land. I thank God that I've been able to live as a woman. In my transition and living as a woman, I've been able to become more of a man, to use the stereotypical definitions. But before I transitioned, my masculine energy was trapped as well, because there was this filter. And it said, only this part of you must get out. So what that did was trap the whole of me. All of me had to pass through those metal detectors to get out of my mouth. And fuck those metal detectors. Fuck gender roles. You must transgress those limitations. You must overthrow those limitations within yourself. Do it in deceptive ways if you have to. There are too many people who are trying to keep you from getting to the promised land, which is here and coming. You might need to transition. You might need to transition back. You might need to go through some completely radical unknown change. Only you can determine that, and that's between you and your intuitive connection to the divine. I can't tell you what that is. I can only tell you that because I did all of these seemingly radical alterations to my own expression of myself, allowing myself to cross boundaries and swim in different circles that before those decisions were completely off limits to myself, until I did those transformative things, I was unwhole. And now I am whole. And in wholeness there is peace. And so on a practical level, may you transition. May you experiment with homosexuality. May you experiment with being more masculine if you were born in a feminine body. May you transgress those limitations. Throw off your chains. Only by becoming a liberated God can you be free and live in the garden of the promised land, which is quickly approaching. But two angels stand at the border of that garden, and they say, only whole people shall re-enter.
Oh, somebody died today. All you ever had is in the middle of the song. You never needed all the money. Oh, somebody died today. All you ever had is in the middle of the song. You never needed all the money to eradicate them. All you never needed all the money to eradicate the whole.